Maybe we can start.
Okay. So, namaste to all the masters. And first of all, namaste to our great guru, Brahmarshi Pitamaha Subhash Patriji and Swarnamala Patriji madam. To all the astral masters, my parents, my all the gurus who have come in the path of my life at different stages of my life. And my spiritual guru is my sister who put me to this path. And thanks to everybody. And namaskar to everybody. So today, this session, I think after quite a few weeks, I'm able to come this week. Sorry about that. First of all, I wasn't able to attend. So today, yeah, we are starting with chapter 11. We're talking about chapter 11. So this chapter, in a gist, I would just say, and then I'll go question by question. So in a whole, this chapter is all about different aspects of feminine energy, how Goddess Lakshmi talks about various aspects of femininity. So with step by step, she talks about it, and it's very beautiful. And I think I have to confess that this is the chapter which I properly understood so far. So till now, this book has been a challenge to me, and it's been quite a journey. So this is one chapter which I understood properly, and I hope I deliver it in what the way I've understood. Let me try. So first of all, the author goes on asking to. So the chapter's title is what is the three joys of the divine feminine. So I think so. Yeah, so then he asks that with starting with this, he says, tell us about the different aspects of feminine aspects, more about feminine aspects. So Lakshmi Ma says, um, so she starts with saying that in ancient times, previous many thousands of years ago, so there were three aspects of feminine energy, or with which the whole uh, basically it was pure joy, primordial. I think we've all spoken about primordial joy earlier. So she says this three aspects of feminine, or it's three aspects of love. So it's so beautiful. She links with love because uh, I thought that feminine aspect with love was a very good relation that she put in this answer. So she says it's basically vibrations of primordial joy. And how these aspects go, she says first aspect is very innocent and very sweet and very joyful, and she says it's purely uncomplicated. So I kind of related when she said the initial stage, like very naive. When she later she goes on giving terminologies for that, and in this stage she says it's very sensuous and it's pure. It's there's nothing about. So there is this difference between being sexual and being sensuous. So we have this confusion of a lot of us in humans relating these two. She beautifully explains in this chapter, saying that sensuousness, I mean, it's related to pure joy, that she puts it as primordial joy and very sweet, very innocent. And so I felt maybe this she's relating to a stage of this adolescence, or and initial stages from child to teenage stage. So she says that's the first aspect of it, being very pure joy. And the second aspect of a feminine energy is the aspect of matured women, so where she gives the sexual love for her partner or husband, and she at the same time she gives that motherly love to her child. Then the third aspect is the grandmother kind. So grandmother kind, in the sense, it I wouldn't put this as a age per se. I think she used it as a terminology where it's like you've crossed all these stages of your teenage, your all the initial struggles of life, and then you've crossed motherhood and living with a partner, and then you've come to a stage where you've seen it all, you've done it all, and it doesn't matter whether you're 40 plus or 50 plus or 70 plus, or she doesn't mention anything like that. She just says this grandmother stage is where she's completely aware of everything. So there is no judgment here, because she knows, it's just a phase. Looking at younger me, I mean, right now when I look at teenagers, I feel their struggles, their confusions and everything, I feel it's okay, they'll just pass it, it's going to go away, it's just a phase. But at that stage, my own, I was so confused. I was, it was like the whole world was on my head, and what am I going to do? So I feel so funny now looking at teenagers and youngsters. Now I understand, I relate this answer to myself at every stage that she's telling. So it was very beautiful. That's why I mentioned that I understood, this is the chapter which I understood properly. So then going and moving along, she compares this um, initial stage of, being naive and very pure joy, simple and everything. She says it's as a sunrise. So beautiful it is. She compares it as a sunrise. And then coming to the stage where she's a mother and she's a wife, she mentions it as the bright sun. That's the prime of your life, prime of your youth. That's what I understood. And then she goes on telling the setting sun, that's the grandmother stage, is the setting sun. So here all these three aspects of this feminine energy or goddess energy. So she says that every stage has a purity in it, there is a joy in it. So women have to surrender to that part of their life and celebrate. But the sad part, I feel, personally I feel, is we don't do it. We all have crossed that, but we, at least I didn't do it. Every time we have something, think of past or think of future. But she says enjoy it, celebrate it. And also she says, especially in the initial stage, that's the stage of where you're innocent, and there is, at that stage, she says that has to be beautiful and celebrated, but there has to be a restrictions and boundaries, not judgments. Again, not, she specifies, she emphasizes on that no judgments, but you have to have boundaries. Why? If you cross that boundary, the sensuousness goes to a sexuality where you try to impress the male energy. So that is what she says, have boundaries and enjoy, celebrate. She doesn't say anything no or negative no. We have to understand this aspect the way she has given it to us. So then moving on, he asks, so like, uh, then he says, so the question, let me read the question. So the third type of love can be more impersonal if it is not directed to a specific being, is what he asks. So she says yes. Why he mentions this as impersonal, I was thinking. So the question itself says, so that this is not impersonal. So we cannot, because the third aspect of feminine energy is where the grandmother kind, that's the setting sun, what she says is, so here it's impersonal because there's no personal reference to it. But he says beautifully that she answers it such a way that this is a stage where, see, once you have seen it all, your experience you've crossed, you've reached a mental state where you feel like, okay, if crossed, and they're like, you want this
It's
melancholy
5:45.
mode. That's what I understood. So you want to be with yourself at that stage. You don't want friends. You've all your elder generations are gone, and you have your, of course you have your present family and everything, but you reach a stage where your mind says, I want to be with myself, because that's kind of a melancholy stage. That is when you come to that melancholy stage, is when you connect to the universe, or you connect to the higher consciousness. This is what I understood from this answer, what she's telling. So that is when you, she puts it such a way that if you stayed high up in mountains, you feel as if you're in a holy place, or that's, it's a mental state, it's a state of mind. Not really, because she's trying to explain that stage. Because see, even if you take it as in a physical sense, right? If you, I think in previous chapters somewhere there was one chapter where they mention all these holy places are at a mountain top or a hilltop. So I think there the energies are high. So she would say that is what you want to achieve at that stage. So as a woman, you feel this is the holy place. That is, it's not the place per se she's talking, that's a state of mind. She's saying that you want to be there because you've seen it all, and you feel that pure. I think that's when the spirituality kicks in, and you feel like, I want to be with myself. That oneness aspect is what she's talking about, and that's how I related and I understood this. And she goes on saying that this first aspect of feminine energy that we talked about is, she calls it as maiden. And then the bright son, the full matured male, sorry, women, where she's a mother, she's a wife, she talks it as a matron. And then this grandmother kind, she says it as a crone. She gives these terminologies. So he goes on asking, with this information, the author goes on asking, so if you say it as you're talking about sun, you're talking about bright sun, sunrise, bright sun, sunset, and you're saying maiden, matron, and crone, but there are so many religions where they talk about the same what she's saying as maiden. There are people who talk about waxing moon, or and the matron, they talk about full moon, and the crone, they talk about waning moon. So what this mean, waxing and waning, is waxing is again related to as a moon, where before full moon, each stage after the Amavasya, right? After the, so it's stage by stage, day by day, the moon is we see more and more of moon. Initially, it'll be like a crescent, that crescent increases, and one day it becomes full moon. And then again, full moon to new moon, there is this waning moon that is called as, it reduces, that at least it doesn't reduce, that's what it's seen from Earth perspective. So he asks, so how is this? Why these two, so many different explanations is what he asks. Why this metaphors? That's what he mentions. So again she explains here that as and when times passed, ages passed, patriarchal systems started becoming dominant, right? So men started, they kind of took this fire energy is what into a masculine energy. So this three aspects of goddess, they started calling as waxing moon or full moon and waning moon. So patriarchal religions associated this topic as, see here, moon is one thing you have to understand. At least I understood that we are talking about the night, right? So here all these later what the patriarchal system came, so they are talking about this darkness or the fire element, right? That she's explaining. They say that it's the passion that in this feminine energy, they put it as to the darkness of the night. So a little bit here, I kind of little I didn't understand, but then I tried to relate it. So here, this passion, what the patriarchal system wants it to be hidden, so hidden in the darkness of the night. So the goddess Mars says, the matron who is in her full bloom, right, as a mother, as a wife, she's in the prime of her youth or prime of her life in this process as a feminine energy, right? She says she is an epitome of passion, and this passion without shame. But what happened over the years, that patriarchal system, they kind of connected this passion with shame. That's when the energies kind of dipped in the earth. So that's why she says, as a maiden, the woman is in full energy, she's so naive. But the children are like that, they have the sensuousness, right? This small kids have sensuousness. So this, when we introduce, because human by nature, we start introducing by nature they have a sexual nature. So she says, if this sensuousness, when you add it with the shame, that's when, all the positive aspect of it goes and the negative aspect kicks in. So that's what she says is happening in earth. So that's not what it is. It should be, rather, at least that it should not be like that. So then the next question he goes on asking, so he says, the scriptures say that you were with others before you married Lord Vishnu. So was this as a maiden or as a matron? So she says, yes, I was in married relationships. So now at this answer, I kind of read again and again, because we are so programmed in our society that when this word relationship comes, we always link it with sexual relationships or sexuality. So I had to, so I had, like, we are programmed like that, the society and the life that we've lived in, we are programmed like that. So here she says, at least now things are changing, but still. So she says, yes, I was in many relationships, but not, she emphasizes with the point that it was not sexually. So here relationships more as a maiden, she says, because maiden is always linked with sensuousness, as she explained. So sensuousness is where pure joy is when you give yourself to that particular situation or that particular era or time or whatever you're doing, you give yourself 100%. That's when you get the joy. So she says yes, she was in relationship with many men. She says there were men who were thinkers, who were soldiers, who were men who protected other men. So there were different stages who took care of other people. So she says, I was a partner to many of these men in that stage before I met Vishnu. Or before, sorry, I shouldn't use met, but we are used to this language. So before she actually came across Lord Vishnu. That's what she says. And here she says, when she partnered with all these male energies, right? She says she was accepting it as she is and she was giving herself to it, not sexually again, masters. So that means this is the true pregnancy, she says, where you accept the male with your female energy. So at this point, see, always right through this chapter, she speaks about both male and female energies together, which is helpful to manifest whatever you want in your life. That's what she says. So, and also she mentions that even Saraswati came through this path. So here, one thing with till now what I read so far, I understood that. So we all, at least reading this book, I understood that we all have this male energy and female energy in each one of us. So within us, like if we relate to Ardhanarishwara, right? Both male and female energies, they come together. So that's what I understood. Like each one of us, if we are think as Ardhanarishwara, so that is the male energy. Don't even give the terminology, male energy and a female energy which exists in our own self. So she beautifully says when these two energies come together, you manifest to the higher level. So I, being in this path now, in all this, whatever I've learned, so I understood that this both energies which is in me, if I bring it together, so I can raise to the higher conscious level, which of course all of us are trying to do. But understanding, reading this chapter, it kind of put me in a, I would say, perspective onto how to go about this. So moving on, then he says, did all of this take place before you met Lord Vishnu? She says yes. And then he goes on, asks again, because he's again, I think we all have lived this physical life. We are more inquisitive and, we want to know the nitty gritty details of everything. So he asks, so what were these relationships like? So again, she emphasizes that nothing was sexually. There was no attachment sexually. It was not flirtatious. It was purely an emotional joy, pure joy. She says, I gave myself completely. I trusted myself. And I know, because when you trust yourself, you know what you're doing. I mean, this applies to all of us. It not just somebody who is having a higher conscious level or a higher spiritual being in a higher spiritual level. So when you give yourself, you know your path, you know what you're doing. It kind of, your own self leads you to what you want to do. It guides you. So she says beautifully that your intuition, my intuition guided me. So exactly, when you know yourself, when you give yourself to something, your intuition says, because you're 100% in that. So your intuition says how to go about it. That's how I understood this. So, and again she mentions again and again right through this chapter, right? No judgments, no judgments. That is what Patriji always tells us: be in the present. Lord Krishna also tells us being in the present. So being in the present is what means, for me at least, I understood that there is no judgments. So judgments come when you analyze the past, when you are expecting something about the future. So here she again and again says no judgments. I'm trying to relate everything. So, and also she says with every man there was sensuousness. Sensuousness is again not sexual, but a pure joy that is giving yourself. That's when you get the joy. And then she says, yes, this was absolutely not sexual until I met Lord Vishnu. And also she emphasizes here that everything in earth, every aspect, every element in earth is sensuous. Even when she says, feel the leaf, feel the petals of a flower. So there is sensuality in everything. And she says, in olden times, in ancient times, sensuality was celebrated. Now it's kind of a, even the word, when you say it loud, it kind of, people stare at you, look at you like, what is she talking about? Because for us, sensuality is equal to sexuality. And this chapter, again and again, she says, no, not sexuality. It's sensuality is what, it's a pure joy. It's where you give yourself 100% to the dot. So then, moving on, she says, this is what the going forward in future, when the matriarchal system more and more starts coming to light, you will see, you will experience a lot of things. Then he asks again, so will women again. This is, even before I saw this question in the chapter, it kind of came to me in my mind. So is it that women are going to rule the society? So that's the question. I was surprised to see the same question. I mean, more related question. So, will women assert more control of human societies? Is what the author asked. So she says, it's again, she says, it's not about who controls whom. It's about both men and women surrendering to their minds and their hearts. So again and again, she's emphasizing male energy and female energy. So here I understood that this is both same. So there are certain aspects where male energy has to, kind of act. And then there are certain aspects where female energy has to act. But there is always a male energy input there. Though female energy is acting, there is a male energy input there. With this, so they support each other. So she says in earth, all beings, or all every aspect of earth goes hand in hand with these two energies. And right now there is this transition period going on in every, whether it's animals or plants or any aspect of the earth. She says this transition period going on from masculine to feminine, because again, it's not just masculine to feminine, it is to bring both, to make it in a harmony. She emphasizes that, saying when these two are there hand in hand, there is harmony. So if you notice, nature is all about harmony. Nature is all about being in sync at that moment. So that's when she says that's what will help to go higher and higher. And also she mentions that later part of the book, she talks about her incarnations as Sita, Yashodhara, and Draupadi, Radha. And she's going to reveal lot of things which have been written in a wrong sense, and she'll bring the true true, how do I put it, actual information or actual situations, what happened, she's going to reveal. And she says, also she tells the author that I will help you understand the purpose of your life, why you came, why what is happening with your life. I'll help you understand, I'll help you raise, heal. So she says he's transitioning from the third chakra to the fourth chakra. That is, third chakra is Manipura, fourth chakra is Anahata. So from third chakra to heart chakra, you're moving. So she says, I'll help you how you can focus on these chakras and release and heal all of that that's been stuck because of our whatever, our thoughts or past lives or whatever. So she says all these, a lot of our soul tribes are trying to do in the face of earth and to help humanity. And also she says that humans are the only race who are going slow in transitioning from this masculine to feminine. So again, we have to understand that if we are shifting from masculine to feminine, that doesn't mean we are leaving masculine or we are gaining feminine. It's just that means that to bring, we are completely in a masculine phase. So we are moving it to feminine, where both together, there's a harmony in the nature. So she says, I'll help you. And over the years, next in future, a lot of changes is going to happen. I think we've already noticed those changes, like how in the generations, our previous generations were and how our generation has changed quite a lot, and the next generation, who kids who have coming out of college or 20s, who are in 20s, how their attitudes have changed, how the society is accepting a lot of changes, and how women are coming forward in all phases of life. Maybe it's a part of all these. Since I after I read this book, that's what I understood. Maybe I used to always think, oh, it's so nice, these kids nowadays are open to so many things. They are it's so many things they are getting, what we, or maybe previous generations, I won't even put we had a lot of privileges, previous generation women didn't have. But now I understand, nature as a whole, earth as a whole, is changing, is transition, and this is the result because of that. So masters, I think I took 2 minutes extra. Thank you so much for listening to me. I have shared whatever I have understood. So if anything there is that, any corrections or anything, please let me know. Thank you. Thanks to all of you.
Okay, namaste, masters, and good evening to everyone. And Ashaji, that was a wonderful sharing. You open up new perspective to chapter 11. So yeah, so now, yes, so now I'm going to be. So today I'm going to talk about chapter 12, which is entitled "My Soulmates, Rama and Ravana." I think there are about 17 questions here, and while going through them, I will highlight the lessons imparted by Ma Lakshmi and their relevance in our day-to-day life. Yeah. So, but if I'm unable to complete this chapter today, so we'll carry it forward next week. So let's see how it goes. So, masters, sit back and enjoy our journey back in time to Ramayana. Okay. So this is the conversation between the author Ananda Karunesh and Ma Lakshmi. All right. And in this chapter, Ma Lakshmi, in her incarnation as Sita in Ramayana, she imparts some very important wisdom for us to, to ponder and practice in our life, which I'll go through in a bit. Um, for me, while reading this chapter, yeah, it is such a revelation for me because you see, Rama and Sita, including Ravana, okay, they are all a highly evolved being, all right, and they are of course from the same soul group, and they incarnated on this planet Earth, each with a soul plan, just to have the first-hand experience of the trials and tribulation on our planet Earth, so that they can learn their lessons for their own soul growth. And at the same time, they can inspire and guide us through their lessons. So this is simply amazing. And just imagine, even this enlightened being, yeah, they come to Earth to learn lesson, because we all know Earth is a harsh and excellent school for learning. So, and even they forget their soul path at the beginning of their life, and only got enlightened after learning their lesson. So for me, this is a humbling experience to read this chapter. So now let's jump into the questions and answers. Yeah. So the first question Ananda Karunesh asks is, according to the Ramayana, Ravana was the evil king who kidnapped you and wanted to marry you. Your husband Rama had to fight a long war to defeat Ravana and bring you home. You had to endure even more suffering and humiliation after coming home. Is this correct? So to that, Ma Lakshmi says that Ramayana took place during the transition of the Treta Yuga to Dwapara Yuga. Okay, so you all know the four eras there. So this is during the transition from the Treta Yuga to Dwapara Yuga. And it was a long and difficult incarnation for Ma Lakshmi, she says. And she was very lonely because she was sequestered. Sequestered meaning isolated, secluded, because she was in Ravana's place all alone. Yeah. And she didn't have much to eat and had many restless nights. She suffered a lot in that lifetime, and there were times she felt that she was going to die as she lost faith. So you see, as goddess in human form, she also had to go through the trials and tribulation of life, like I just mentioned at the beginning. Okay, but here she knew it was in her soul plan that she designed it all, and she allowed herself to be in that place of suffering, right? Just for the purpose, for that is a purpose for the human to go to the depths of the sorrow. So she said there is a purpose for the human to go to the depth of the sorrow. Okay, and she further says that as low as and as sorrowful and desperate as she would get into that lifetime, at the very last moment, she would turn inward, and the guides and the ancestors would tell her that she had a bigger picture, bigger path, than what she was going through. And that saved her many times. So, similarly, okay, so what we can learn from here is that whenever we are facing challenges in life, okay, know that that is a bigger picture. Okay, there is a lesson for us to learn. So in such difficult times, okay, rather than looking outside, uh, you know but through meditation, we can connect to our higher self and receive intuition, strength, inspiration, guidance from within. Yeah. And so that we can face the situation, rather than looking outside for help or pretending that we are strong and things like that. So this is a message for us. Yeah, it's a takeaway message for us. So, and then the another question, moving on, the author asks, what is the purpose of so much sorrow? Right. To that, Mahalakshmi says that as the soul desires to know all, there will be sorrow. Without knowing the contrast, there cannot be growth and flowering. So, what is the contrast that she's talking about here? Okay. And I'm sure some of you know that this is all the harsh realities of our life on planet Earth, which is full of hardship, difficulties, which are very much necessary for us to learn from these experiences and grow spiritually. So this is actually the agenda of the soul reincarnating on planet Earth, and which is, of course, is a harsh school for learning. Yeah. So if just imagine if it's all bed of roses and there are no challenges, can we learn anything? Can we grow? You see? So, and I always like to use this, without darkness, we cannot appreciate the light, right? So that is why the contrast is very much is required here. And Mahalakshmi also says that, from the higher realms, okay, many from the higher realms are incarnating as humans to experience this humble path, as there is not much contrast and growth in the higher realms. So Mahalakshmi chose this humble path in that lifetime just to experience the contrast. Okay. So moving on to the other question, the author asks, is that why Rama took so long to come and rescue you? So to that, she answered that initially Rama's attention was outward, okay, and he was building his strength for the war externally. And that is why it took so long for him to find her. But it was only when he surrendered to himself by going inward and connecting to his higher self that he was able to find and go to Mahalakshmi. So again, the message of going inward and finding solutions to your problems is emphasized here. Yeah. And she also continued by saying that Rama's war was within himself, okay, which created the outer war uh, against Ravana, his greatness over evil, right? So then the author asks, what created the war within? What created the war within? She says, Rama's stepmother, Kaikeyi, yeah, had taught him while growing up that to survive, okay, he needed to fight for what he truly desired. So because of this programming, again, see, programming, this belief conditioned by his stepmother, Rama believed that in order to rescue Sita, he needs to fight for her. And hence he waged an external war against Ravana. So, dear masters, the lesson that we can, gather from this is that this is the law of attraction again. See, it is due to his belief condition from small, he attracted the external war for him. So likewise, we are also conditioned by our family and society from very young age with some deep-rooted beliefs. Yeah, this is all programming. And as a result of which we attract the external circumstances that we are in now. So these beliefs are nothing but it's a set of repeated thought patterns over a period of time. So this is a food for your thoughts. So think about it. Yeah. And then the author asks, but didn't the war between Rama and Ravana happen because Ravana kidnapped you? Mahalakshmi says, Yes, Ravana wanted to unite with her as Sita, okay, for spiritual powers. See, Ravana wanted to unite with Sita for her spiritual powers. So by kidnapping her, he invited war upon himself. So Rama also attracted the war to himself for having the belief system which was inculcated by the stepmother. Yeah. So she says that it is how all wars happen. Okay. Those in a war, they attract one another at a deeper level. So again, this is the law of attraction that she's talking about, like frequency attracts frequency. And this is how, now been spoken about very often by our senior masters, and we really need to be very, very mindful of our thought patterns. Yeah. So yeah, this is the message from this particular answer. And moving on, Ananda Karuni says, most Hindus think of Rama as good and Ravana as evil. And to that, she says, Mahalakshmi says, she would say that the distinction is true, okay, from the mind perspective or the mind level of duality. But there are higher truths of the heart and soul that are beyond good and evil. So, and then he asks, what are these higher truths? Okay, and to that this is where she reveals that Rama and Ravana are soulmates. Okay, they are Sita's soulmates also. Okay, one is the positive aspect and the other is the negative aspect. Rama is the positive aspect and Ravana is the negative aspect. So the three of them served each other's life purpose in that incarnation. Rama desired to please his father and stepmother as he wanted their approval instead of being true to himself. So in the earlier chapter, Ma Lakshmi said that pleasing others to get their approval will create conflict in relationships, as this comes from the place of ego. Only when Rama found his inner guidance by going inward and connecting to his higher self, he found Sita. But he was meant to learn the important lessons through the suffering on his ego path during exile. So, what we can gather from here is that we should not do anything to please others to get their approval. Okay, because as this comes from the place of ego, like what Mahalakshmi said, we need to be true to ourselves. We need to be authentic. Okay, we must always do what we feel is right in our hearts. And this one, Master Pretty PJ always says that. Yeah, so and and only by doing meditation, we can know what is right in our hearts when we receive guidance from the higher self. Yeah. So, an ego, of course, it's necessary for us to learn our lessons and grow. Like Mahalakshmi just mentioned that, Rama was meant to learn important lessons through the suffering on his ego path during his exile. So, without ego, we cannot learn, and only through mistakes we can learn. Yeah. So that was that. And question number 8. Okay. Um, Ananda Karish asks, so how did Rama awaken from his ego path? And to that, she says, Rama's soul path deviated from his ego path as he realized that the only voice he needed to listen to was that of his higher self. So, as he surrendered to the higher voice during the final days of the war, it allowed him to receive guidance from his guides and ensured victory over Ravana. So, the purpose of being with nature in silence and meditation is to become attuned to oneself, such that one does not desire to please others for the sake of their approval. So, again, the same message here, dear masters. And Ananda Karesh asks, was your kidnapping by Ravana meant to be? Okay, here she says, yes, she wanted to be sequestered. Sequestered is isolated with the help of her own family. And Ananda Karunesh would express surprise after coming to know that Ravana and his people were relatives of her family. So Mahalakshmi continues by saying that, Ravana's task was to separate Rama and Sita, okay, so that they could experience what their souls had come to experience before coming back together even in greater harmony. She made a choice to experience all this during her incarnation as Sita. Okay. And she said that the level of suffering was not revealed to her before she incarnated, because you see, in the spiritual realm, it's not possible to know suffering. So the only way to experience suffering is in the material realm. So she had angels, goddesses, Ma Saraswati, even the female sages, Ma Parvati, which I remember reading from the untold story of Sita. They were watching over her, guarding her, and giving her moral support. Even some ladies from Ayodhya sent prayers for her well-being from the Sarayu River, which I remember reading again from the untold story of Sita. So she specifically mentioned that Ma Saraswati gave her hope, and helped her have the fortitude to stay strong. So she said that she was like a very kind mother to her. So, dear masters, know that whenever we are facing any challenges in our life, okay, just close your eyes and go within, and seek the help of these goddesses, okay, and they are always there watching over us. So, and I'm sure that they're waiting to help us, and all we need to do is ask for their guidance. And I think it is as simple as that. Yeah. And okay, there's another question. The author will ask, so Ravana was more interested in your knowledge. Was he not in love with you? Okay. So to that, Mahalakshmi says, Ravana was interested in the spiritual knowledge and the siddhis that she had, not her beauty. And the author again asks, so Ravana was a deep person. Was his soul more evolved than we assume? Um, then she says, all things, this is very important message. Say, all things manifest with the law of attraction. Okay, as mentioned earlier, Ravana was after the spiritual knowledge and cities that Sita had, and that was what attracted her to him. Yeah, and also it was his spiritual part to separate Rama from Sita, which helped in bringing them back together spiritually. So Sita says that Ravana has no karma for doing this, for separating them, as it was his spiritual part to do so. Yeah. And the author will ask another question. He said, you said earlier that even you had to surrender. What did you have to surrender to? Okay. And she says that, you see, this is what she said. It's very, very important. It's from when I was reading this, I was uh, very, how shall I say, was very affected with that statement that she made here. She said that she would often have thoughts of suffering, and as a result of which she attracted and experienced loneliness and sorrow. But when she surrendered to that, meaning when she accepted her circumstances unconditionally, her thoughts switched to joy and love. And when she meditated on that joy and love, and appreciated and treasured even simple pleasures of life she had, she raised the energy. And this in turn brought Rama and her together. So, masters, please note that this is an important lesson for us. See, when we are grateful for all the things that we have in our life, see, we will have more reasons to be grateful for in future. As you all know, gratitude attracts abundance. So when she moved from the wallowing in her sorrow and grief to appreciating and treasuring her simple pleasures, she raised the energy, and that brought Rama to her. Okay, so that was a very good message from that passage. Now, another question the author will ask, so your thoughts about your life changed even though you were sequestered, even though you were isolated. Okay, and this is where now she talk about the law of attraction. When her thoughts changed from deep despair to great joy, she transformed and got enlightened. So, when we are joyful within, it does not only manifest everything we truly desire, but it also opens the door for enlightenment. So, this is when Rama found her, when both of them surrendered to the joy within, the place of emptiness, which is filled with primordial joy, which we had learned in the earlier chapters. So when both got enlightened, so they attracted each other. So the author adds on to say that, it is very important. We think that we will be happy when our desires are fulfilled. Okay, but what Sita says that we manifest what we truly desire when we have joy within us, or when we are happy from the inside. Okay, so this is the law of attraction again. And I mentioned frequency attracts frequency. You can experiment with this, because when I think back on my own life, this is really true. Okay, see, those days in my working place when I was so stressed and tense, and I used to attract some low energy from my staff. Okay, I mean, not some, the same low energy from my colleagues, and due to which I used to have a lot of issues. But now, of course, with meditation and all that, but now when I'm faced with a problem, I just try to remind myself to be calm and composed, and that the universe shall take care of everything. And so too, everything somehow will work out just fine for me. So these are the things that we learn, we put into practice. Yeah, it's just not reading, but we need to apply in our day-to-day life. Yeah. Okay, moving on to this is question number 14. Um, Ananda Kranish asked, okay, earlier you said Ravana was not evil. What was he like? Okay, Mahalakshmi says, no, he was not evil. Okay, Ravana was a bridge that separated Rama and Sita and brought them back together even closer. Okay, he was devotee of Lord Shiva. He possessed knowledge and he was a skilled warrior. Okay, and he was also a great scholar. He did penances and practices, and that gave him powers to manifest his body in the way he chose. But these practices were also his downfall, for they did not enlighten him to his true nature, but and instead increase his arrogance and ego. So this is the danger of opening the higher chakras before the lower chakras are fully open. It was his path to show this danger of seeking after siddhis by taking the suffering upon himself. So you see, again, this they here they are learning their lesson, and so they're inspiring and guiding us. Okay, so this is the danger of seeking after siddhis, you know, and because of this, he attracted the downfall for himself. So, masters, as meditators, you see, sometimes we do get siddhis. Siddhis means what? Supernatural powers. Okay. And normally, the buddhi, which is the wisdom, only comes after we drop the siddhis, when we transcend the siddhis. So, the message here is quite clear. If we go after siddhis, we are attracting suffering and downfall, like what happened to Ravana. Yeah. And okay, the author asks, so Ravana was not evil.
Maybe can we stop here because we got 6 more
Oh,
minutes for
sorry,
the question?
sorry. Yeah, I didn't mind see the time. Okay. Okay, okay, Akka, we can stop. Then we can continue from next week onwards. Yes.
Okay, masters, thank you very much. My apologies for not being there.